Hello, Matt. Hello, Paul.
Hey.
Yeah, so I just had a question about I've seen the show a few times and I've seen Matt specifically call some callers dishonest. And I was wondering like the method by which you go about determining whether a person is being genuinely dishonest or whether or not they just kind of have like a flawed way of thinking. And when you're able to identify between the two, is your approach generally the same in dealing with that particular caller?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Paul jump in on this because I know, but I want to start because you kind of addressed what I'd said before. What you'll notice is that when I say someone's being dishonest, I don't tend to say you're a liar. It's very rare that I will assert that someone is lying, and I don't do that unless I think I have really good reason and could make a case that they are intentionally being deceptive. To me, when I say that somebody's being dishonest or they're presenting a dishonest argument, it's not about them intentionally trying to deceive. They are also deceived. They've been themselves are now the victim of their own dishonesty because we're really good at self-deception. And it's things like if they acknowledge, yes, this is a fallacy, and then deny that the fallacy applies to their argument when we've done a direct kind of comparison of if I were to say this and this and this, would you recognize that that was fallacious? Yes. Well, let's plug in your terms into there. And all of a sudden it becomes not fallacious. That is dishonest. It's not necessarily that they know they're lying. This isn't about conscious intent to lie. It's when they go from simply being mistaken to unable to be corrected, I think is probably the closest I could put on it.
Sadly, we speak in
I
English,
see, I
and
see.
The English language is sometimes fails us. And so, unfortunately, the word dishonest goes for motive attribution. But when Matt uses it, when I've ever seen him use it, he always means intellectually dishonest, which is a whole different category. Intellectually dishonest is where, again, with cognitive dissonance, you're holding conflicting ideas, and your reason isn't lining up, and that's intellectually dishonest because you're digging in when that can't it was shown you're not correct any longer. But I think Matt would agree that motive attribution is never helpful in these
Yeah,
conversations. Even if you can be 99% sure that a person is, this is calling a show is a weird thing where you can sometimes
sure.
tell someone's a troll. But when you're engaged with someone, even if you're 99% sure they've made something up and they mean to hurt you, that's just not a helpful thing. And again, with the English language, the other example is ignorance. Unfortunately, we don't have separate words for lacking knowledge. That's called ignorance. But also, unfortunately, colloquially, it means that you're dumb or you're not able to understand these arguments. So it's unfortunate we don't have better words for some of those things. But I think Matt, your complaint against Matt is partially against the English language here because there's not a great different word for Matt to use in those scenarios.
Yeah. To be
And
fair,
that,
I don't
and
know
I've just
that Lee
spoken for
was.
Matt.
Yeah. To be fair, though, I don't think Lee's necessarily got a complaint against me. It's one of those things where if, yeah, I'll stop there and say that it is somewhat an artifact of the English language, and that I wish there was something that I could say that was better than, oh, you're being dishonest, because in some cases they're being hyperbolic. But if I say, oh, you're exaggerating, well, that sounds more like I'm accusing them of lying than to me than talking about intellectual dishonesty. Like you're making things up again, Arnold, is that you're directing that as a liar. When I think a lot of this, I grew up saying, I know that I know that I know that I know that Jesus Christ is Lord. Now that's a whole lot of no's. And the truth is, never once did I know, and neither did anybody else who's ever uttered that statement. They don't know in the sense of sound epistemology. They may know in the sense of awareness, but that's not what they're talking about. It's possible that maybe they have an, a personal evidential warrant for believing because God revealed himself to them directly, in which case they are then familiar with it. But I would argue that doesn't count as knowledge with respect to epistemology. Does that help a little bit, Lee? I'm sure you have more.
That re- that really was, and you were right. It was by no means a complaint on my part. I was just trying to understand.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, thank you guys for taking my call. I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Awesome. Thank you. By the way, I'll be the first one to say, Paul was talking about how and why you say things and how it's going to be viewed, and whether or not you're viewed as someone who seeks the truth or you have thoughts on the truth there. saying someone is dishonest or is being dishonest is probably not that much less problematic with respect to putting them on the defense and having them view you in a certain light as saying you're ignorant. I have this problem of, well, it's not a problem in my view, but it's a problem strategically of people know where they stand with me. It's not difficult to get me to tell you what I actually think. All you have to do is say, hey, tell me what you actually think. And sometimes you don't even have to go that far. And so if I'm like in this debate that I did the other day with Posh, in the middle of the debate, I flat out told him, you will never get another debate with me. Now, that I kind of almost regret because I could go back on it, much like, I said I was never going to do another debate at Modern Day Debates, but they made some changes and I talked some things over with James and I've been back. But I regret that my frustration with having shown up to debate someone who refused to address the topic and just wanted to do this tap dance around with, presuppositionalist mumbo jumbo. That's not right either. But nothing substantive led me to
Mhm.
say, yeah, this is a waste of time. I, for the first time in a long time, just went and played a game of chess in the middle of the debate while he talked because he would ask a question and then I would say, what does that have to, and I would answer it and then say, what's that have to do with, is Christianity rational? And we did that over and over again. And I was just like, okay, I have nothing to say. I'm going to let you ramble on with what you think you're saying to make a point. But none of it was about Christianity. None of it was about rationality. Why don't I get, something done that I enjoy?